All right, so welcome back. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get back to this before I ended, um, but I do have the footage from the Vulture, and then in the third episode, we'll actually rent a prospector. So in this one, I've actually picked up a salvage mission, one of the 20,000 ones, and we're going to go salvage. I believe it's Cutter. So, yep, it's Cutter. So we're going to go get a Cutter, salvage, scrape it, disintegrate it, and but we're also going to pull the components off of it before we do that. So this video is going to be a little lengthy, just for that reason. And then I'll probably get the prospector one out tonight too. So we'll be back to back on those. So we've jumped to the actual station that the salvage claim is off of. So now we fly the Vulture out there. Um, Unfortunately, with the rental vehicles, you can't, or ships, you can't really change anything on them. So you're pretty much kind of stuck at their whim of what they put on to begin with. In this case, with a Vulture, they put cinches on it on the first set, and then a salvage or a tractor beam, and then a braid on the second set. So we're just going to use the first set. We'll use the tractor beam as we need to position the ship. But first, we got to get to it. Again, I just go in nav mode till I get close, and then I cut down. We're also going to try to find some panels afterwards and see if the scanning's working properly. I'm actually over near Crew L1, so we'll see if it was just a localized issue over by Microtech. All right, so we're coming up to it. We'll go ahead and get positioned. So what I like to do is I like to back up to the rear ramp to rear ramp on whatever ship I'm coming after, or door, however you want to look at it. Most of them have ramps. So, and that allows you to just take the components out, jump across, and put them in your ship. Um, in all reality, a lot of people don't bother with components, but depending on the ship, you can actually make an extra 10, 15 grand just from stripping the components out, which is what we're going to do here. Now, fortunately, on the salvage missions, we don't have to worry about turning anything off or doing anything. They already come with the shields down and um, the ports unlocked. So what we'll do is we'll position the Vulture, get behind it, and even though IE is over, you can actually still do the Vulture thing. You just have to work up to it instead. But I believe the Vulture's selling for about 1.7 million, and realistically, you can make that on a rented prospector in like a week or so. Well, depending on how much you play. I mean, it could be a couple of weeks if you don't get a lot of play time. So, like I said, we'll back up here, get a little closer, get it lined up so that we basically just go out the ramp of the Vulture to into the ramp of the Cutter. There we go. All right. I should note that I don't use the max lift while doing this because the max lift will literally move the ship if you hit it instead of the component. So I just use the multi-tool with the tractor beam head. Do your helmet check. Make sure you're geared. All right, now we're going to VBA across. Just WASD, control to go down, space to go up. So salvaging is a good way to get used to doing EVA. If you're kind of leery about it, just start doing some salvaging. You'll get used to it. Oh, and we got some cargo. So let's go ahead and grab this. And most of it's probably not worth much, but it's all money. So we're going to take it all for now. Um, they've actually significantly reduced the amount of salvage that you get from ships now. So the concern of getting full off of like a cutter or something like that is kind of ridiculous now. So we'll go ahead and take everything we can get from it. I'm not going to take the weapons because they're not really worth much. Um, I think you might get a couple hundred apiece for them. So we'll go with system components, and that's pretty much it. Not to mention, we take the crates out of here so that it's easier to get to the components. Gives you more room to work. And at least one of these is gold. I think the second one I got was gold. So, and that's worth a good 6 to 8 grand, depending on where you sell it. So between that and the components, we probably just about paid for the salvage claim. So that means for the most part, anything we scrape or disintegrate will be pure profit. I've been grabbing these relays too, the fuses, just because. So far, I haven't found anywhere to sell them yet. So I mean, there is that, but it's free. And when they do get engineering in, being in the habit of doing that will be nice. Because if they're not blowing, you can use them. And who knows? Maybe with crafting and and base building, maybe we'll be able to reclaim them. So what we're looking at in here is you should have a power plant, a shield, a cooler, and a quantum drive. So here's the cooler. I'm not sure why they did this, but once you get past a certain point, it disappears. It's still over there, but it's, you know. All right, there's a quantum drive. So go ahead and jump across just to make sure nothing glitches here. So you can see there's the cooler in front of it. So we'll put that stuff along the side so we can leave some room for salvage. Go ahead and get the shield out now. And you'll notice that the line is red, which means it's damaged. I have not successfully been able to repair these yet, but I mean, hopefully that's coming. And then we've got the power plant. So it's kind of wonky in there, but if you fiddle with it enough, it'll come out. All right, so that's the four main components there. I'm trying to think. So cooler, shields, power plant, quantum drive. I think that's all of it. We'll take a look and see just if there's anything else, but I'm pretty sure there isn't. I always kind of check if I find any storage, I always check them too. Yeah, you can't do nothing with that. Now, you notice that I just used the tractor beam there. Don't be surprised if you do that and your ship moved. Your ship didn't actually move, the cutter did. Come on, door. I could have swore there was a storage area. I forget where it's at though. I don't really use it that much in my ship, so. And obviously that up there is for the bathroom. You got the bed. Maybe it's the cutter rambler I'm thinking of. I don't remember. Anyway. Yeah, it must be the rambler I'm thinking of. Or even the scout, maybe. Now, you'll notice when you look out here, and my ship looks like it's gone. So it's not actually gone. It's just off to the side over there. So we'll go ahead and close this. It's easier to salvage these when you're actually closed up. So I usually try to close them back up after I loot them. All right, and there's mine. So we'll go back over here and get this, and we'll come back over here. We might actually have to use the tractor beam. Um, for those who aren't familiar with the multi-tool, it's a left click for the tractor beam. If it's not working for some reason, try hitting B, which changes the mode on it. Like hit B and then hit B again to bring it back to the tractor beam. All right. So we'll get back in the ship here. Again, I apologize. I was hoping to have all these out before IE ended so you could actually rent the ships and take them out. Because that would have actually quickly accelerated your money-making ventures to be able to rent the Vulture at least. Because you can rent the Prospector outside of IE, but the Vulture you can't rent yet. Unless they've changed something that I don't know about. I think somebody said you might be able to rent it in 4.0, but I haven't checked yet. So maybe I'll check on that and get back to you. All right, you notice the ship is drifting. So I right-clicked on my mouse, and that brought up the tractor beam. So basically, you just click on it, and then hold it, and then once it stops moving, then you can start salvaging it. So in order to get into salvaging, we're going to hit M, and that'll actually let us start scraping. You pick what way works for you. I usually work from front to back. Now, the cinches don't pull as much at one time, but they are more precise. So you actually get more for while you're using it. So when you're first doing like the arrows and stuff like that, it actually works because you can get almost a full SCU out of them. Whereas if you're using the abrades, you only get probably about 0.8, 0.9 SCU, which is not enough to kick out a container. So in the beginning, it might pay to actually leave the abrades on or the cinches on. And then after you've done the first few missions, then maybe switch them over. Now that's assuming, of course, that you bought a Vulture, because you can't change them on the rental once they allow you to rent them. Prospector is going to be the same way. It comes with an arbor, mining head, and no modules, so you're pretty much stuck with that. You can use gadgets though, which I'll show you. Well, I'll show you at some point. But try to make sure you get everything before you actually break it up and fracture it and disintegrate it, because there's no going back once it's disintegrated. So get as much of the RMC, because it's selling for anywhere from 10 to 12 grand at SCU, depending on where you sell it. So, like I said, once we do this, we'll see if we can get some more RMC off of panels. Again, same method, front to back. I mean, obviously you do what works for you, but this way I try to make sure I get all of it without too much trouble. Salvage is one of those nice relaxing things. You can just sit here and do it. There's no worries about anything blowing up. You just go out there and basically start scraping the hull. So it's one of them relaxing things, relaxing professions you can do. And it pays pretty good. Typically, you should be able to expect to pull anywhere between 150 and 200 grand minimum on each run, depending, assuming you come back with a full load. All right, let's see. All right, so let's go ahead and do the bottom, and then we'll switch back around to the top, or the other side. Again, just pick a point and start, and go from there to the other side, whether it's front, back, whatever. I usually leave the lights off just because it's easier to see what you're doing. But obviously, if it's easier for you with the lights, then go for it. Yeah, I'm going to cut some of the travel and so forth out of this, but I'll leave the majority of the actual scraping and disintegrating and so forth in. But I'll trim out travel time just because you don't need to see all that. And it looks like I'm leaving some behind, but I'm not. Just watch the gauges there where it shows how much is left. It'll show a percentage anywhere from 0 on up. Once it says 0, move on to another spot. And I mean, we haven't really gotten a lot off of this, but like I said, we're going to try to find some panels too. The worst thing you can do with a Vulture is come back not full. A full load is where the money's at. Now, a salvage mission like this, if you're planning on getting the components off, traveling to it, get the components off, scrape it, fracture it, so forth, and then disintegrate it, and then look for panels afterwards, you should probably allot about 2 hours. Because it's probably going to take you roughly about 2.5 hours to do all that. But you figure in that 2.5 hours, theoretically, you could make a fortune. So, for instance, if you were to actually come back with, let's see, trying to think here. So you figure we're a little over 2 SCU, and we'll probably end up with another, probably call it 6 or 7 fracturing. So we'd probably be looking at, we'd have enough room for panels. So you have figure 13 SCU in the buffer minus the 8 or 9. So we'd end up with about 6 or 7 there, plus another 13. So you're talking an additional probably 15 to 19 SCU worth of space for panels. And if you could even come back with 15 SCU, I think it's selling for about 12 grand at Orison, and I think maybe Microtech as well. So you're looking at about 180 grand just at RMC. So, I mean, not bad considering that the Vulture right now I think is running about 100 or 1.7 million to buy it. In comparison, I think the Prospector is running about 2.2, 2.1, 2.2, and then you figure you're probably looking at another 50 to 75 grand in modules and mining head and so forth. So you're looking at about, say, call it 2.3, anywhere from 2.3, 2.5, depending on what you do for components and so forth. All right. So now we'll get into about 40 meters, and then we'll go ahead and hit Alt W, left Alt W. That'll switch us into fracture mode. We actually pull the trigger or push the button, the mouse button, to fire it, and it'll fracture it. And then once we do that, we'll use the mouse and right click, and that'll switch us over to disintegrate. And then as you can see, there's a negative percentage there because I'm too far away. So you just get close enough that you're actually a positive, and then hit the trigger again. Whether you use sticks or you have to use your mouse, it's basically just like the fire button. All right, and then we'll run around, sweep around, and we'll pick up all these other pieces. Construction mats are only selling for like what, 1.5 to 2,000 per SCU, so I'm not too concerned with those. All right, now that we've done that, so we finished the salvage mission. Now let's see if we can find some panels. And right there, I think we already found some. Yep, we're looking at about 6,000. So these, when you scan or when you ping using, I think it's tab. I actually have it set up on a button on my joystick, but I believe it's tab. You use that to ping, and in the scan window, it should show the signature where it said 6,000. And any multiples of 2,000 will be salvage. So there you go. You can see the panel popped up. So we want to kind of ease in here so we don't hit them. And that's 2. There should be a third one here. Yep, there it is. There's the third one. So little visual glitch there, I think. There it is. Now you can see it. All right, so same thing. Hit M. In order to get back into salvage mode, scraping mode, if you're in fracture mode or disintegrate, you have to hit left Alt S. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to scrape these panels. And at some point during this, we'll probably have to actually go back and empty the buffer. So again, pick a point, work your way across. On these panels like this, you get quite a bit, so I usually do the small area, and then I go do the larger area, and then I rotate underneath and get the curved part that you have to actually rearrange it. You can actually use the tractor beam to spin this around too. Works just like the tractor beam on your multi-tool. If you hold R, you can actually spin the panel around and place it the way you want it. Hold R and move your mouse. Since I'm already in my ship and I've already got my sticks going, I'm just going to go ahead and move the ship. All right, and this will actually take a while with cinches. Once you get a braids, it's a little quicker. But you're talking a decent amount of time. Matter of fact, I may even cut some of this out. Okay, so I actually cut out um, some of the scraping. So I mean, you can see how I'm doing it. I mean, I showed a portion of it, so you get an idea of how it works. And then we'll jump over to another panel, and we'll do the same thing. And basically, we got 3 panels here, so 6,000 signature, 2,000 a panel. So that's 3 panels. Theoretically, if we're not full after this, we could go find another batch of panels and go back full. But for the sake of expediency, we're going to finish these up and then go back and sell. So I will be expediting some of this. And then, oh, there we're full. So now we'll basically just leave the ship where it's at. We'll put the mining heads away, and then we'll go back and we'll unload the buffer, at least some, so we can actually get more on board. So process for this is pretty easy. You go downstairs to the cargo area, and then right on the display here, you can actually see at the bottom there's an auto eject. We'll click that, and then we'll click for what we want to eject, and it'll just keep feeding them out as long as we keep moving them. So get your multi-tool out, and then just left click to pick it up when it comes out, and stack it. The cargo grid in the Vulture will hold 12. Theoretically, you could fit more in there, because you can fill up the walkway there as well. I've heard of people getting on average about 20 something, so like 23, 24. I've even heard of people getting 26, but it gets kind of janky then, so I usually limit myself, and that's assuming I don't have any components on board. Components not really lucrative right now compared to getting RMC, but come crafting and base building, then it will be, because then you'll be able to turn those into other stuff or repair them even. So, and then basically we'll just keep unloading here. Basically, we'll just let it run until we either don't have room or it stops kicking them out. And then we'll probably go ahead and get some of the construction materials out too. I like to go through and not leave anything left of the ship if I can help it when I salvage one. Alright, so we got about 8 SCU there that we took out. So we'll go ahead and... Alright, so we got construction material left. So we will go ahead and move some of these components forward, so we actually have room for the construction materials along there. So we'll just slide them up here. We don't need a lot of room, I don't think. There we go. Alright, now let's kick out some construction materials. Same process. Once you click the auto eject, you don't need to click it again. So you hit eject and it'll start kicking them out again. And this is true of the Vulture or the Reclaimer, although the Reclaimer actually has 2 of these dispensers, and it'll actually kick out up to, I think, 24 SCU boxes. Not that that's actually useful, but 8 is probably the max right now, size-wise, that you want to do in the Reclaimer. But we just have the Vulture, and it only does 1 SCU crates. So that's what we'll use. All right. All right, and it did not kick another one out, so we should be good. Now, there'll probably still be a little bit left over in there. There's not really much you can do about that. Now we'll get back in the seat and we'll finish salvaging. Again, you hit F, it'll recenter you. All right. And like I said, just start at one point and work your way across. And there, we're almost finished up with this panel. And then we'll move on to the third panel and salvage it. All right. So let's go do this last panel. All right, and now we're finishing this panel up. And then once we're done here, we'll jump back. I'm going to go ahead and go back to New Babbage just because that's where I'm doing the starter, the new player guide. But you can go back to whatever station whatever planet you're going to. You'll need to go there to sell the RMC at least. All right. So we'll go ahead and jump back to New Babbage. And we had to make a micro jump here, so we'll probably have to do the same thing again to refuel. So we'll jump to her L3 since it's close by. We'll refuel, and then we can make the long jump from there to microtech. Again, hold whatever button down. So if you haven't changed it, it'll be the left mouse button to initiate the jump. I ran into a server error, and for whatever reason, it refilled my fuel. So when I came out of the server error, I just went ahead and jumped back to New Babbage. Obviously, it normally takes a little longer to get back, but like I said, I cut out most of the quantum jumping. I'll go ahead and leave the planet stuff here so you can see it. And then once we get back to the planet, to the spaceport, we'll need to actually unload. And we'll have, obviously, normally you'll have whatever you have in the cargo hold, plus whatever's in the buffer that you'll have to unload. Since I had the server error, and I know there's a bug right now sometimes with server errors where your buffer will be empty. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully it's still there, but it may not be. But for the purpose of a tutorial, this will work regardless. Again, just go ahead and leave yourself in nav mode so you get down closer, and then switch over. Make sure you do it soon enough so you don't face plant in the ground. And in a Vulture, you're going to want one of these probably front hangars. Typically, I think it still uses a small hangar. At New Babbage, they're on the front of the spaceport. The medium ones are like right behind it on top. And then the large ones are farther back. Extra large. All right. So now we've got down here. We'll go ahead and do the same thing. We'll hit F. Well, I use F3 to call for a landing. You can actually use that if you have it keyed, or you can bring up the comms and do it. There we go. All right. Again, I would wait for the doors to fully open. And then probably put your landing gear down before you go in. That way it'll slow you down. You don't go flying in against the back wall. Main thing you're looking at this early in the game and playing is just getting the mechanics down. And once you get the mechanics down, you'll start doing better financially. Obviously, for one, because you have less repairs to your ship. Or destruction, however you want to call it. Since we actually put stuff in the back there, we'll have to go out the side door of the Vulture, which will be over here on the left. Oh, whoops. All right, let's get back out of the seat and try this again. All right, so the door is shut. We've actually already landed, so I'm going to go ahead and turn the ship over towards the cargo area, the freight elevator, just so we can unload it. Keep it within that dotted yellow line, and then that way you don't have to move it again. You can just store it usually, especially on the small hangar. Yep. You got to usually be centered to repair and refuel. We're not too worried about that since this is a rental anyway. On these, I don't bother to refuel and repair unless I'm planning on going out again. No point wasting money if I don't use it again before it expires. All right, you just run out the side. We'll go ahead and get the door to the cargo elevator open. Well, basically we have to bring it back up because we didn't bring it back up before. Looks like I already have a container RMC or something in there. All right, and then basically we just unload into the freight elevator. Having a little issue with the multi-tool right now. It normally shouldn't bounce around like that. So usually if that happens, it means the server's having issues. And since I recorded this during IEE, I just hadn't had a chance to edit it and do it yet. So servers get really wonky during IEE. There we go. You got to make sure they're actually snapped to the grid. Otherwise, it won't recognize they're there. But we'll go ahead and get all this unloaded, and then we'll go sell. Nice thing about Salvage is that you can sell it immediately. You don't have to refine it or anything else. Theoretically, you could sell immediately with mining as well. However, you're not going to make as much. It's about half of the value. Oop. Oh, there it is. Apparently glitched out. That was lucky. At least we didn't lose it. Like I said, IE makes things wonky. The free fly does a lot of things. All right. This, and you can double and triple stack these. I'm just not. There's the iron. I think we already did the gold, or the gold is the next one of the two. Yep, that's processed. So we already unloaded the gold. Now, when we go to sell these, the RMC, the food, well, the RMC, the gold, will actually go to the TDD. See where the rest of it can be sold. Construction materials at the admin terminal. Nice thing about New Babbage is it's all in the commons, so it's a lot easier. If you go to Orison, you have to go to 2 different platforms to sell everything. And eventually you can afford to get a max lift tractor beam, which is the rifle version, and it's a lot faster because it can go farther. Then you can even save up eventually and get an Atlas, an ATLS, which is the mech for loading and unloading. Keep that stored in your hangar at home at your home planet, and you can literally just stand there and pull them off and snap them to the grid. All right, let's get the rest of this off. So there's scrap. Another one must have been the gold. See, it's actually settled down a little bit. It's not as bad jumping around. Well, most of the time. It looks like we have, what, about 16 SEU cargo? All right. Let's go check the buffer, see if we have anything in here. Nope. All right, so when I had the server error, it pretty much cleaned out my buffler. So everything I had in there is gone. And there's only about 4 or 5 SCU of RMC. But I mean, that 4 or 5,000 was about 50, 60 grand. So we'll go ahead and get these components off and get them on the grid too. Unfortunately, you can't do these from a distance properly because it just doesn't show them after we reach a certain distance. So we'll have to go ahead and manually move them. Hopefully they fix that at some point. I'll do some testing at some point. We'll see if we can actually repair these, but I'm not going to worry about it today. Today we're just looking to see what we can make starting out. Because in the beginning, that's what it's all about. When you first start playing after a wipe, or you just start playing after you bought the game, you're all about making money. Because once you make enough money, then you can start buying other ships. That'll make life a lot easier. The cutter is a great little starter ship, but it's very limited in what it can do. You can still do cargo missions, so unfortunately IE's over, so you won't be able to rent the Vulture more than likely. But what you can do is, wow, this is really being annoying. There we go, put it there. All right, what you can do is you can actually rent a prospector still, but you can also do cargo missions till you make enough to be able to rent it. You'll need about 70, 75 grand roughly to rent a prospector. So a few on top of the tutorial, do a few cargo missions, so hauling missions, and you'll have enough to rent a prospector. We'll go ahead and send this down. All right, then we need to go ahead and store our ship unless we're planning on taking it back out. I am not at this point. Yep, I guess it's gonna make us claim it. So if you actually just call another ship, it'll force it to store that one. All right, we'll go ahead and go over to the Commons here at New Babbage, and we'll see about getting this stuff sold. Again, you could have actually pulled the guns off of the cutter, but you only got probably 300 to 500 at max for them. Which I mean, every penny counts, but there's such a thing as diminishing returns, and in the case of the guns, they take up a lot more room. So that's at least a couple of SCU that you probably won't be able to carry. So we want to avoid that, which is why I didn't grab them. So we're going to go ahead and looks like we still have a ship out here. Probably the one I called to get the other one to store. There we go. We'll go ahead and store that too. All right. So now we'll go to the Commons and we'll get some of this stuff sold. Go over here and go down to the Metro Loop. And when you go down to the Metro Loop, when you come out and go down the hallway, it'll be to the right. The left is pretty much always the spaceport, usually. Or in this case, the Aspire Grand, which is the Habs, depending on where you're at. But most places I've seen, it's pretty much left for the spaceport when you're not at the spaceport, and right for everything else. Fortunately, the Commons is the first stop from here, and we arrived just in time for the train to come. Again, glitchy things during IE. And we just have to wait for the ship's train to go. Yeah, and make sure you're getting off at the right stop. Honest, when it's not IE, the trains were usually run better, cargo works better, the whole works. All right. Again, long trip from the spaceport to anywhere. All right, here we're at the Commons. Take a lift. We'll go up the stairs here, up the next set of stairs. And once we get up here and come out, we'll take a left and head over to the plaza. And the admin terminal is off to the right. So go ahead and run here. This is where we'll sell the construction materials. At least we might be able to sell something else. We'll see. So go ahead and pick your location. All right. So we got 4 SCU. We'll sell all 4 for $6,000. And we got some food we'll sell for not much, but it's still money. Honestly, if we were just worried about scraping panels and stuff, I probably wouldn't even have taken those. All right. Now let's go Around the corner here, we'll go to Omega. And we'll go in here and we'll sell the components. All right, so click on the sell tab up top. All we've got in here right now is these. Looks like we're looking at about what, 3, 4.8, so 7.8. So it looks like we're looking at about 4 there. So still about 8 or 9,000 for the components. So I was after expenses and all, I was down to about 37 grand. I'm back up to about 50 now, and we still have to sell the RMC. So we'll go around the edge here. Basically, it's just a big square, big loop. You have Omega there. You have the TDD up here. If you keep going that way, you'll actually hit center mass where they sell weapons and firearms and so forth. So we'll go in here. We'll hit one of the terminals. And again, just like we did previously, we'll pick our location, New Babbage. All right, so we got 1 SCU of gold for 7.5. We've got some iron for 400. And we've got 9 SCU of RMC for 118 grand. So you're looking at about probably 125, 130, about 135,000, something like that. So yeah, we're up to 176, and I was down to about 36. So we made 140 grand off that run. We would have made more if we hadn't lost that stuff in the buffer. So we would have actually been up over about 215, 210, 215. Make sure you get you a drink if you need it. So I mean, we're sitting pretty good. I mean, at this point, we'd have enough to go rent a prospector if we didn't already have a rented one. And even with the rented prospector, we'd still end up with about 100 grand left over to work with. So considering we started out with like what, I think I started with 25. All right. Oop, and I still have that fuse. And that's scrap. So scrap will have to be sold at a station admin. You can't sell it on the planet. So that's pretty much going to wrap this up. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Otherwise, have a nice day.